I'd like to take note that all commissioners are present. Before we get started, I just want to make a really quick short announcement. We're going to not take a break this morning, but we are going to break at 11 o'clock and take an hour-and-a-half lunch. So just so everybody is forewarned, that's going to be the schedule today. And I'll go to Peter for any agenda changes.
No, there are no changes.
Okay. Now is the time that we will go to public comment. If you have any public comments to make, it cannot be an item that is on the agenda. And looks like we have our first speaker already at the mic.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Carl Stoughton, and I'm just here to say hello to you folks. It's good to see some faces that have been here before, and some new faces as well. I have nothing on the agenda today for a couple weeks, and then I'll be back. And it's not marijuana related, so we're good here. It's always quite a relief to come to the Planning Commission meetings. This is where sanity lies in the county. You go to a Board of Supervisors meeting and all heck breaks loose, and people come forward and they want to talk about their issues that sometimes are very valid, sometimes are just off the wall. I did have the pleasure of watching the Deputy County Counsel, Julie Moss, in the last meeting. I watched it on video, and now I have to go console Ken Foley. My, how you treat that man. He's a good guy, too. But he's not handling the county for me, so no need to contact him. So in 2 weeks' time, I'll be back here with a tentative parcel map extension, and we'll go over that. It's clean and simple, and it's good to meet you folks. Please enjoy or work well in today's meeting. It looks like you're all going to work well together. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment this morning? Okay. We'll go to the consent agenda and approval of the minutes for March 23rd. Do you have any changes for the agenda or the minutes this morning, or does everything look good?
Looks good to me.
It's good? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to our first public hearing. And Gina, I'm assuming that you're going to be doing that one? Okay.
You know, Gina, before you even start, I just want to say, if anybody ever says that public servants just kind of slough things off and go at things in a half-baked manner, I will refer them to your work. It's very conscientious and thorough, and I think it's an example of what the county employees really do around here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so first on the agenda, we have a tentative parcel map, item number 2016-1130 for the Toyon Circle LLC. Project description includes a tentative parcel map to divide a 3.07 acre parcel into two separate parcels, 1 acre and 2.07 acres in size. The purpose of the tentative map is to actually separate the existing development that's currently on the property. The property is currently served by a small public water system and on-site sewage disposal for each individual development. Apologize, it's a little small. I can't get it any larger, but you do have large-size maps in your packet. This is the tentative parcel map, proposed parcel 1 and 2. You can see the proposed boundary line kind of goes down through the bigger part of the parcel down through the middle, creating a 1 acre parcel towards the front of the lot closest to the highway, and the rear of the lot will be the larger piece, 2.07 acres. This is located in the Toyon area of our county. just south of the intersection of State Route 12 and 26, off of Toyon Circle in the Toyon Industrial Park. Address is 3466 Highway 12 in Valley Springs. There's a close-up of the aerial photography. As you can see, the parcel is outlined in blue. You've got two different buildings currently constructed on the parcel, the one up close to the highway and the metal building that sits further back on the lot. This is a photograph of the building that will be located on proposed parcel 1, and the current building that will be located on proposed parcel 2 if approved. Under general plan and zoning, the current land use designation is a little odd. We'll probably have a little discussion trying to figure this out. It's currently designated future single-family residential, but it happens to lie within the industrial corridor. So the industrial corridor is a designated area that the general plan says this land would be suitable for industrial uses. It's a swath of land not clearly defined by anything other than just the line on the map, but it is an area that is parallel to Highway 12 from San Andres all the way to the county line at Wallace. The current zoning of the property is M2, which is our most intense industrial zone, general industrial, and in the M2 zone, when a parcel is served by a small water system or what we consider district water and on-site sewage disposal, the county zoning code for the general industrial zone says that there is a minimum allowance for a 1 acre parcel size for newly created parcels. So therefore, the proposal actually is consistent with both the general plan and the zoning, being that we're not asking, or I should say the applicant is not asking to reduce the parcel, the smallest parcel, anything lower than or smaller than 1 acre. During the whole process, we've basically got 2 comments, one from Public Works and the other from Caltrans. Public Works' comments were very general. Toyon Circle is a privately maintained public road. They had no requirements for encroachment permits or road improvements of any kind. So there was nothing in terms of Public Works as far as requirements. State Route 12, Caltrans actually more or less reiterated the fact that there was an acknowledgement in a previous project traffic study that was done that acknowledged a site distance issue, indicating that site distance west of the intersection of Highway 12 and 26 is actually below standard. But the impacts associated with this particular project are very minor impacts. Impacts as such would not reduce the level of service of the road. Some of the suggestions for improvements in the previous traffic study were improvements such as a roundabout at that intersection, a 4-way stop at the intersection, or a flashing beacon, which at this time, because the impacts are so minor and there's no reduction in the level of service of the highway, that this project really doesn't contribute anything significant to that impact. So therefore, we're not actually asking for any requirements for them to do any of those kinds of improvements out on the highway. There's just no nexus to require that. However, Caltrans and the county have discussed this particular area in Toyon for quite some time. They both agree that a comprehensive plan for the Toyon area is needed. Benefit basin discussion has been bounced around, and it's probably something that we will be looking at in the near future to assist future development of the area.
Could you explain what the benefit basin is? I noticed that in the resolution, and I just didn't understand.
Areas that are in need of improvement will form a benefit basin, Peter, feel free to jump in if I'm not addressing this correctly. Basically, it is a project, specific projects that will be asked to be put in what they consider to be their fair share of improvements. At the point that there is enough money in the benefit basin, then those said improvements would be made by the county or Caltrans.
So the basin is a metaphoric collecting.
It's a designated area that they identify as, as being contributing to the impacts of a specific road.
So you have a defined geographic area that has regional, development within that has regional impacts, and it's a way to fund improvements so that one developer is not responsible for improvements that serve a large area. And the basin, I guess it is sort of a metaphor if the money goes into it, but other terms, area of benefit or something like that is also a similar term that's used for that.
Okay, thank you.
So this may look slightly familiar to some of you and unfamiliar to others. Previously, we had another project. It was a much larger project. It was a request for a general plan amendment, a zoning amendment, in addition to a tentative map, all for the purpose of approving an administrative use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary at the same location. So this other project was actually heard by the commission and went on to the Board of Supervisors, ultimately being denied. They denied the entire packet, including all the entitlements. At that time, the applicant or the landowner, which is the same today, was not the applicant at the time that this other project was proposed, and there was no argument by the current landowner applicant to actually approve the tentative map on its own standalone as a standalone project. So the entire previous project failed. And one of
the main difference there was that this would be a commercial use.
Yes.
That's
So
in the previous application.
Yeah, so the previous application was basically asking to amend the general plan so we could amend the zoning for the purpose of allowing an administrative use permit for the dispensary. And the zone change would have allowed, or I should say the general plan change would have allowed the potential for commercial zoning. The commission didn't feel it was appropriate in that area to allow commercial zoning at the time, being that it is our prime industrial corridor. They found it very inappropriate to have commercial zoning at that particular location. So in fact, the whole entire package, if you will, got denied.
And also you had the complication of increased traffic and that bottleneck.
Absolutely, yeah. So there were some impacts that were associated with that as well, but I think ultimately the finding was made that nobody wanted to have commercial uses and commercial zoning in the industrial corridor in the Toyon area. So one of the findings specifically made to the tentative map denial was based on large-scale industrial development. It was found to be desirable in the area, and the commission felt that approving the parcel map would reduce value and usability of the property. But in fact, you can actually find this separation to be more marketable for the property. And I think the applicant is willing to speak on that a little bit more. It's my understanding that they do have interest in one of the two buildings on site. The applicant has had a considerable difficulty leasing out the two property, the one property with the two buildings. We've had a number of proposals come to the counter that just, that just weren't working out, and they've had considerable trouble, and I'm sure that the applicant will want to touch on that a little bit more. But in fact, with the fact that the minimum parcel size in the M1 zone is in fact 1 acre, there is a consistency with allowing the land division. Other uses and in the Toyon area, industrial uses and zoning do include the majority of the land is zoned M1 and M2, which is anywhere from light to heavy industrial. The majority of the M1 and M2 land is currently constructed upon. It has development, but actually is very underutilized. If you look at the development located on these parcels, you've got small buildings on a big swath of land, and there's nothing else out there. In addition, we've got parcels across the highway that are zoned M2 that appear to be very productive businesses, and they've been consistently open and available for business. Parcels that are ranging in size from less than 1 acre, don't ask how that happened, and all the way up to 20 acres in size. So you have a wide range of parcel sizes specifically for on parcels that are zoned both M1 and M2. Getting back to the more to the claim of undeveloped or underutilized land, the majority of the land in the Toyon area is actually designated M4, or I should say zoned M4, which is a zoning that is referred to as business park. And I added up the acreage of undeveloped business park M4 zoning in that direct Toyon area, and I was surprised to find that we had 260 plus or minus acres of land that is currently zoned M4 that is undeveloped, being used as rangeland, totally vacant, nothing at all, which is a little disturbing. The M2's uses, or I should say uses in the M2 zone, are not in fact allowed in the M4 zone, but there is a consistency with the land use designation that if a large-scale industrial operation wanted to locate on any one of these M4 zoned parcels, in fact, they could make an application to amend the zoning to accommodate that industrial use, which may be M2. So here again, there's lots of land available that's currently undeveloped and underutilized in that general area.
Gina, how many parcels is that versus acreage?
There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 13 or 15 separate parcels.
Gina, you might go back to the map that
Sorry.
shows the general area and sort of point out where.
There we go.
Oh. Or go forward.
So, I'm looking to see if I got everything included there. It looks as though I think I included everything in this map. So here again, generally speaking, there is a majority of land that is slated for future development that just doesn't have anything on it. We do have some vital M2 zoned parcels that, one in particular that is utilized by the Calvers Unified School District. It's a legal, it's a lawful use of the land because it is a school district, but you might say that it's rather inappropriate for a school district to be located in an industrial zone, but nevertheless it's there. So if in fact there is a market for a smaller parcel, which, in my opinion, I guess if you've got someone that's interested in a smaller parcel and it meets all the minimum requirements and it's consistent with your general plan and your zoning code, then, and it doesn't create any significant impacts that would cause you to deny it, then, I think that's reason to approve the request. So under CEQA, we did do a full initial study, found a negative declaration which was circulated for public review from February 15th to March 15th, only less than significant impacts identified. So staff's recommendation is to actually pass or adopt the resolution for a negative declaration and approve the tentative parcel map to divide the land. Any questions?
I do have some questions. There's several things in the very thorough initial study that I think there's a couple of just typographical errors. Page 25 of 34, under discussion A, third line, should, I think, be plant security personnel instead of personal.
Yes.
And let's see, on page 29 of 34, to be consistent with the Caltrans letter, down on the fourth line, the sentence starts, "This project will not result in any increase." I'd suggest that we put in significant increase, because Caltrans did express a concern about
Okay.
increase in traffic. And on page 33 of 34, of course, this might have been a Freudian slip, but some of the buildings from the lumber era, I think it's probably supposed to be era.
You're right.
Most other things, I just wanted you to be reassured that somebody reads this stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I do have some questions then as to the resolution. Is this a time to be doing that?
Certainly, yes.
On the resolution for the negative declaration, under finding one and under the evidence, on the third line, I'd say Caltrans has concerns that, and I'd insert, there will be increased use and that site distance to the west. I'm basing this on the Caltrans letter.
Okay, can you read that one more time, what
Sure.
you're wanting to insert?
Yeah, so the sentence would read, during that time when an agency responded, Caltrans has concerns that there will be increased use and that, and then picking it back up again, site distance to the west is below standard. We could say some increased use. Then, on the resolution approving tentative parcel map, we've got a duplicate whereas here, right before be it therefore resolved.
Thank you. We've already identified that. I've made the change on
Yeah,
it.
okay. And then over on number 4, about the overcrowding of schools, you mentioned the potential inclusion of 2 additional single-family residences. Actually, this would only increase the potential by 1, right? Because currently, there's 1 parcel, so you could have 1 caretaker residence on that.
If they split it, there's going to be 2 parcels.
Yeah, but that would
I
add
think the
1
point
more.
I was trying to make is that currently there's no residential development currently on the parcel.
Yeah,
Aren't-
I was using the potential.
But, okay, I get it. I understand.
So, you know, if you want to make it really clear, why you could add a sentence before you're therefore, by saying, by adding a parcel, the proposed project would increase the potential residences on this land from 1 to 2. I can say that again more slowly.
I
Please.
think we got what you were saying.
Okay, and then you can cut out the therefore and just say the potential inclusion of 1 additional single-family residence. And then here, things got a little mixed up, I think. I'd cross out will and put would, and cross out the be, and cross out the word be, and cross out the D on create. So it's going to read, potential inclusion of 1 additional single-family residence would not create a significant impact. Okay, and then on the Public Works conditions, the Public Works letter, you have all the conditions A through F. You actually omitted what Public Works had as F.
Yes, we omitted, actually,
And
there
then-
was one reference under the regulatory compliance that did not apply. So
Okay.
I omitted that from the,
All roads shall be named on the public map
right,
subject, okay. And then there's also missing the numbers 3, 4, and 5 on the Public Works letter. The grading permits,
grading permits are pretty standard thing. If you're going to grade, you get a grading permit. There's no proposed grading associated with this. There's no on-site or off-site improvements
That's what-
required. So again, it didn't apply.
as long as you didn't have to put them in, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
So what we typically get from Public Works, as well as some of the other departments, are just sort of a routine, here are the standards that apply, and they don't really
okay,
pick and choose which ones actually apply. And so
Yeah,
we
well, that's-
made the decision that those didn't, there's no grading, there's no road construction required for this, so grading permit's not required.
Find common sense here.
Trying to,
And Public Works doesn't get up in arms when you do that.
no.
No.
Great, okay. That's fine, I'm done.
Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any other comments? We can go back to discussing any of these changes after we hear the presentation if you want.
I did have some, but I already gave them to Gina yesterday.
Some
Okay.
of which were
Minor.
duplicated by Tim. Basically, it was nothing that, there were spelling errors, grammatical, nothing that really changed the substance of the evidence at all.
Some of which Mr. Laddish has already brought up.
Thank you.
I have one comment or question. Maybe it's the wrong time, so please correct me.
No, you're fine.
On the resolution approving the tentative parcel map, near the bottom of the page, item number 1, the project has safe, adequate access to accommodate future land uses and users. I think we all know that that's pretty lousy access. It's a dangerous intersection. The site distance is bad. Caltrans admits it. But for us to say that it's safe and adequate for future land uses, I'm not quite sure how we get to that conclusion. And do we need to? I mean, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and approve this division. But
Yeah,
I don't know
so-
about that sentence. It just doesn't seem right at all.
That could be a little troubling. So basically, there's no, at this time, the tentative map itself was not found to create the level of additional traffic, to reduce the level of service of the road, therefore really contributing to the existing problem. It's not really, I guess, fair, if you want to just get down to plain language, to require improvements of that site distance upon a project of this size. So they're not creating the
Well,
impact associated with us having to alleviate the problem. So in fact, the subdivision, as it was created, is an industrial subdivision. The use itself is not changing. They're not proposing to amend the zoning. So the uses basically of the property will be no different than what they have been in the past. And that intersection, although it may need improvement at this time, at the time of the original zoning amendment and parcel maps to create the industrial park, it was adequate, and therefore it's seen adequate even now because this particular project doesn't impose enough impact to that intersection to really warrant any kind of improvement.
I'm not suggesting that it should. I am suggesting that it's not particularly safe now, the current arrangement. That's all I'm saying. I don't like the word safe.
Okay.
It isn't safe. I just drove through it this morning once again, and it's, that and the Calaveras Unified School District intersection are crazy. I don't know how we haven't had school buses hit up there. It's just and no, it's not this person's job to improve that intersection. That's all I'm saying.
I think if that's a concern, we might add a statement to the evidence. I mean, this is the required finding we need to make. And I think what we're looking at typically with a parcel map or a subdivision where these findings are required is that we're typically increasing vehicular trips onto, and so that we're making sure that that future development can be accommodated. Here, I think maybe if we add a statement that no future development will result from the approval of this tentative map, that might address, or something along those lines, that we might address the concern that you have that, you know, the existing intersection is substandard, but the approval of this map does not worsen that situation.
Good. Yes.
So I also had the same concerns that you did, so I would like to see that added. The other thing is that as I read through this, I was looking to see identification of the two businesses that are currently being run on the property. And how are you going to identify if there's a change if we don't state in here which each of those businesses are? I think that it needs to be documented what is currently there, what business license are registered at that address, so that in the future, if there is a change and it does have an impact on this traffic report with Caltrans and their concerns, we have documentation to that. Do you understand where I'm going with that? You currently have two businesses on those two buildings that are occupied, correct?
Two buildings.
Two buildings that are going to be on separate parcels now. And right now, you're saying based upon the businesses that are currently there, there's no impacts. But if that business name were to change and the use without you knowing, and then you didn't get notification that, oh, there's a different business in there now, or there's two businesses in one building, there's nothing in here documenting what those current businesses are that you're basing this report on with the traffic studies.
So when we talk about, you're talking about specific use, what is in the building now.
Correct.
We analyze it at a much broader kind of a scope in that what is allowed in the specific zoning, which is a number of uses can be allowed. And there's been a number of uses in those buildings over the years. It's not that it's always been used as one thing. You know, it's been occupied by several other businesses that vary from, you know, one thing to another. But in fact, they're all permitted under the M2 zoning.
Okay, but depending on what type of business would go in there, now that we're going to have two parcels, and let's just say you have a manufactured business in there that isn't receiving a whole lot of traffic. That's the way we're looking at it currently. But they put in a business that is going to generate a lot more traffic. You don't have concerns about a change of business and the traffic and the numbers that would come through there with this split?
Not if it's a permitted use.
You know, there's nothing right now that would prevent someone from moving into one of those businesses as long as there's use permitted by right in the zone that would address the traffic issue. So there's a number of buildings back in the Toyon area that could change at any time other than get a business license. There's no review by the county with regard to the traffic. What we're looking at is a parcel map, and does the parcel map create an impact? If the intersection there is of such grave concern that we should not allow any change in use or new development to occur, then we need to take some other action. We need to put in a moratorium there. We need to do something that would say no change in use, no development can occur until the intersection of 12 and 26 can be fixed. That's essentially what we're saying here, that if we want to put specific restrictions on this parcel, that has nothing to do really with the map. It has to do with the uses permitted by right in the zone. Then we have a bigger problem that needs to be addressed. At this point in time, Caltrans is saying, yes, it's a problem, we need to work on it, but it is not so critical and crucial at this point in time that there should be some kind of freeze on development, a moratorium in that area until it can be fixed.
I don't think that we're saying there should be a moratorium. What I'm saying is when I read the Caltrans letters and I read about they're going to eventually be widening it to 4 lanes, obviously that would change everything for that area. My concern is that we are basing this lot split on no impacts to the traffic increasing. And if we are saying that the business type model in there could change to something else under that zone and land use, that would increase traffic. When I'm looking at different businesses that could go in there, you have one that could not have anything to do with traffic coming in and out. And then you could put in a business in that M zone that had large trucks hauling in and out of there in mass quantities. I mean, so you're telling me it's going to be a permitted use and it doesn't matter, but what if we have 20 trucks running in and out of there a day doing deliveries?
You could have that absent this map. You could have that change of use right now, and if it's a permitted use, we don't address traffic generation. What we're saying is the project is the tentative map. To take
Okay,
a
but
three,
if we-
3-acre parcel and create 2 separate parcels. And what we're saying is the creation of an additional parcel is not going to create an impact so significant that we can't approve this project.
Okay, but if our county's been put on notice as to whether or not that intersection is safe, we don't look at that in the future for a new business going in at all? We don't say, you know
Not if
what,
it's a
you
permitted
have
use.
impacts here that you've been told about from Caltrans, but you don't, that's just a letter?
Under a permitted use, you have no mechanism to address that.
Okay.
It's not a discretionary item. It's ministerial, approved over the counter, it's a permitted use. That's how the zoning
I mean, if there's a
regulations go.
concern, then maybe we should be considering, rezoning that property to something else. That the county would initiate a zone change that would minimize or limit future development in that area until, and I think this is the problem was that when this area was zoned industrial and developed a long time ago, the adequacy of access was not fully considered. And so we're dealing with problems created many years ago by the designation or the zoning of this property and the development pattern that was established. And unless we want to create a new process wherein we have identified that this area has critical access concerns and they are, it's a big enough concern that we need to establish a plan development overlay, some other review process that allows us to address traffic prior to any new development. That's something that the Planning Commission could initiate by resolution to say, we've got a concern about this. We want planning to bring back a proposal to address overall traffic in this region.
Okay, so when Gina pulled the map up and I was looking at all those parcels there were 2 of them that had a PD overlay. Why? That's kind of odd that you've got 20 parcels on that map and only 2 had a PD overlay. What presented that PD would have been laid on top of just 2 parcels and none of the rest? Usually PD goes to an area, and that is odd to me. What generated that?
Without pulling the original zoning file and reviewing the ordinance, I don't have any idea.
Sometimes it could have been a prior project that The PD was established because there were concerns about a proposed use, and they wanted to make sure it was limited to certain uses. Other times, it may have been applied if they were doing an actual plan development project. Maybe the project was approved, but then never finished, and so the PD overlay, sort of like what we had with the medical center in Valley Springs, where there was a prior project approval that required the PD because they were doing different things. That project never went forward, and someone else had to come in and do a new plan development. So there's two different ways that plan developments are applied. One would be generally over an area, say in Arnold, where the community wanted to look at every proposed commercial use. Other times it may be proposed by a property owner or an applicant, say, I want to do something a little different, and I want to use the plan development provision to modify standards. I don't know the history of those two sites, why PD was there. Again, as Gina said, we'd have to sort of go back and look at the archives to find out why that's there.
Well, you all know I would never go for PD, so I'm not going to have that
So-
discussion, but you all may.
Yeah, I mean, get back to your concern. You know, we've recognized it as an issue. Caltrans and Public Works they are looking at options to try to say, what can we do long-term on a region-wide basis to address that intersection?
Well, I
And there's, significant costs associated with any kind of improvement. There's, the vertical curve issue is a problem. If that area, when that area develops out as we'd like to see it, there will be, need to do something with that intersection.
And what is the current status of the idea it's going to be 4 lanes on Highway 12?
Caltrans pipe dream?
No.
Hey, wait a minute, we just got a tax to start moving these Caltrans
Yeah.
projects forward.
Well,
We're all
well,
going to pay for it.
I think that, Caltrans has identified long in the future that they'd like to see that as a 4-lane expressway. Our general plan traffic study shows there's, at least in the next 20 years, that won't be necessary. How far out beyond that it
Will
would
or
be?
will not?
Will not. I think that given the funding, despite the new tax, widening Highway 12 through that area to 4 lanes is not going to happen in
Well,
the...
we went over this in the
yeah.
general plan too, talking about the byways and things. But
there's not enough money to make,
in-
improvements in areas that are, desperate in need of it. 4-laning that section is just not in the foreseeable future.
So the question becomes, Caltrans basically in their letter here is saying that our county should consider the cumulative effect of continued development on Toyon Circle and take advantage of any opportunities to plan and incrementally fund a solution. So what Caltrans is saying to us, we've told you this intersection's not safe. You figure out a way to fund it to make it safer. I don't like being put on notice like that and then being asked to be responsible for decisions that we're making here. It's no different than, for me, Cottage Springs on Highway 4. It's the same scenario, but that developer is having to address that with Caltrans. And it concerns me to be told it's not safe. Nothing's going to change accordingly from what Gina is saying. I just have concerns.
Well, I think Peter suggested that we, the Planning Commission, can say we are concerned, and please come up with an overall plan as to how changes in uses could affect this, and how are we going to establish this level of service and work with Caltrans to get it funded, perhaps. Is the mechanic to do that as a separate item, or?
Yes, I think it would be appropriate to, schedule a separate item and, get Public Works in here, maybe even Caltrans staff to, have a good discussion of what some of the options are and
I think that's where is the practical approach to, as Gina was saying, we're just agreeing or approving
A parcel
division
split.
of a parcel on the map, And right now, we can't affect what uses are being put, and then the current parcel could be leased to two separate companies that have all the truck traffic. So I mean, the potential problem is really
You know, I
there.
would really like to hear from, you had something to say, Commissioner Sisk?
No, I agree with what he's saying. That intersection is terrible. The traffic that could possibly come in and out of there has a huge impact. What bothers me is that's a main route for the schools.
Yep.
Seen that accident yesterday? It's a major concern.
Okay. I'd like to hear from excuse me, not an appellant.
Be-
The project proponent, if we could.
Before we get to that, I have one suggestion on the traffic, and that is on page, what is it, 29 of 34. Fred?
Slow down, Tim, please.
Okay.
The initial study.
29 of 34.
You on the initial study?
On the initial study? It just, all I'm suggesting, I don't know if there's, well, what I was going to suggest was that incomplete paragraph at the top, the last sentence, this project will not result in any increase in traffic. I think we should say significant increase to be consistent with the Caltrans concern and also your resolution.
Okay, we
Help
already,
me out, Tim. What
Okay,
page are you on again?
Page
29
29 of 34.
it's the same sentence he
The
gave
third.
us earlier.
Oh.
Did I do that?
Yes, you already gave us that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening to myself.
Well, I have a question about this. The initial study is the planning department study, if I understand it, and it was
Correct.
circulated as it is, as we see it.
Correct.
I don't know that we should be making changes at this point to the planning department's initial
Okay.
study.
I wasn't sure. So typographical errors are okay, but
Well, when you get to the resolution, that's the planning commission's
Yes.
decision.
Well, yeah, and ultimately, you have to find that you can support this document. I think you can make changes to it. I think that if the changes don't result in new or increased impacts or changes to mitigation that would reduce or would increase the environmental impact, you can make those changes. And if you feel it more accurately reflects the action that you're taking, then I would make those changes. I think we probably want to keep them to a minimum so that we don't get into an argument about recirculation, but you can add, you can modify mitigation, you can add, discussion to the document as long as it doesn't change the outcome of the finding.
since the finding is less than significant impact, and I'm just saying it will not result in any significant increase, I think that's...
I think that's an appropriate change to
I just
make.
don't want to get Caltrans's nose out of joint that we didn't.
But Caltrans had an opportunity to review this and comment, and they did not. They were satisfied with the document.
Yep.
Did you read the same letter I did?
They basically reiterated the comments that they made in the initial circulation.
Yeah.
I mean, they did comment and they said it does not meet the state standard for stopping distance.
Right.
So-
It was the same thing that they were saying in the beginning of the process prior to the initial study.
What I took from the Caltrans letter is that, hey, you had a problem, you still have a problem.
Right.
This does
It
not,
did get addressed.
I didn't get the feeling that they were opposing, that they were saying you can't do what you're proposing to do
Right.
right now.
They're not saying,
But keep in mind.
We have a
you still
bigger
this
problem that needs to be
problem.
addressed at some point in
Yeah.
time, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Okay.
so Caltrans is not coming out and saying, no development, stop everything. There's a big enough issue out here that we don't want anything going on. They're just basically saying we're acknowledging that there's a problem, put it on record so we all know it, and, sometime in the near future, let's work on fixing it.
Okay. Mrs. Copeland, would you like to come up now? I'm sorry for getting you up earlier. We'd love to hear from you.
Just whatever questions you might have, I can answer. I've had the property since 1984. We've had various businesses in both buildings. And there are a lot of trucks that go in and out of there. I am there a lot during the day doing things, trying to keep up the landscaping, et cetera, making the property presentable. And I see what goes on out there. And as far as accidents, I think I've seen 2 since 1984. Right there. I don't know how many have happened that I haven't seen. But if I want to sell the property, it seems like somebody either just wants the warehouse or they just want the office for what they're doing. And it just stifles the sale every time. And that's one of the reasons why I've decided to split it. Because in the future, at my age, I'm going to sell the property. So I haven't really seen any changes in traffic since I've been there. And, they had this dismantling company back there for many years, and they came in and out. RJ Reynolds is in and out all day long with big trucks. There's another trucking company to the back that come in and out that do deliveries to, I don't know wherever they come from, but there's 4 or 5 trucks parked back there on one of the other buildings. They're coming in and out all times in the day. Most of the traffic in the day that I see is like lunchtime or early morning or at 5 o'clock, everybody's going home. It's no different than it is anywhere here in San Andreas. I saw that accident yesterday. That was a terrible accident. And I have seen many accidents on that corner by Toyon Middle School, where you come up Toyon Middle School. This is further down. There is a terrible line of sight in there. I agree with you guys. But I would like to be able to eventually get rid of the property someday. Not now, but I would. And, with the type of businesses that want to go in there, the front building has always been usually somebody like a processing company that would process insurance or, something light manufacturing, doing some little tiny thing for the front building. The back building has been cabinet shops to little truss company to just various little trucking companies that would like to park their car there. I got notified the other day by a guy who wanted to put the towing company there to just park cars there and have an office in the warehouse. So that when he tows a car, say he's impounding a car, because I have the fencing up, it would sit there until somebody got it. Those type of things. But the traffic is going to be the same in there. There's stuff going on, but it's not changing much from what I've seen.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for Mrs. Copeland? No.
Are both buildings empty at this point?
We're currently using one just as storage for Copeland Construction.
The old
warehouse.
cabinet shop?
Yeah. It just has minor stuff in there right now. So it wouldn't take much for us to clean it out if we decide to do something with it. But, even the road going all the way to the back, we're the ones who did that improvement. No one else did. We paved it. We did the improvement. We keep up on the improvements. They only have rights to pass.
When it says privately maintained, it
That's
means
right.
you.
Privately maintained is us. There was improvements years ago where they widened the Howe Creek Bridge and made a turn lane. I thought that was wonderful. And then the deceleration lane from Valley Springs, I thought that was wonderful. And if they had to do another lane next to our property to go by that bridge where somebody was going to pull out, that would probably be feasible too. It just, it's across traffic. You got 26 right there.
And I imagine nobody would be happier than you if that intersection were improved.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can all work together to make that
I know.
happen.
Jake might have some questions. This is my husband, Jake Copeland.
Thank you. You all brought up a lot of good points this morning. There was a couple of things that I want to address to go along with the significant traffic increase that may occur if we sell or rent either parcel or the parcel as it is today. If a nursery decides to go in there, I'm not sure whether the impact of the retail sales that they would have there, what would be significant, to the planning. Actually, it would be the planning department, because in order to have a business in either of the locations, you'd have to go to the planning department to get a business permit. So I would think it would be at that time that the business that wanted to go in would have to be notified that of their significant traffic, if you want to try to control that at this point before they do this freeway that they have talked about, Caltrans, which in this process of subdividing it, we have to give up part of our land, or at least come as to the boundary in order to make this freeway work. And then another thing is the businesses behind us. I would have to say that at least 50% of the businesses that are now turning into Toyon Circle are trucks that are 40 to 60 feet long. Now, Donna didn't mention to you that there's a huge propane company that goes in there with a huge tank a couple times, well, I would say a month, because they also sell tanks there and they service the community. And that's hazardous. That's very hazardous. And when we talk about the safety of this intersection, I agree. I mean, when I see these trucks going out and coming in low gears, especially these 60-footers that work for RJ Reynolds or another company, Terry Smith, who owns the big warehousing in the back, just recently being 2 years ago, he built a 10,000 square foot warehouse. And one of the companies that went in there was a company that actually came to us first. And they're long-haul drivers, so they have these big trucks. And they wanted to rent from us. I explained to them that because of the size of your trucks going into our particular parcel that exists now, wasn't really going to be big enough for you to make the turn and store these trucks there. So I suggested, Terry Smith's property, because it's bigger back there where they have better maneuverability. So again, all of this is predicated on a business license. As long as they fit the use of an industrial corridor, M2, then what would be the reason why the planning department wouldn't issue them a license, a business license, unless that property out there was red flagged? Okay, being that there would have to be some discussion before the Planning Commission to determine whether that company is going to be safe or not coming in and out of that intersection. Oh, you have 5 big trucks going in there 5 times a day? Well, I mean, that's really unsafe versus somebody in a car that has a better acceleration rate coming in and out of there if they were going to, like, a nursery or work in one of the parcels that we hope to be created today. There are other ways to make that intersection safe. We've owned it for 37 years. Being a general contractor, mostly in commercial, we have looked at actually creating a new ingress and egress. Close that one. Close the one that we have right now and open a new one, which is already there at the water tank where the buses go into the bus barn. The only problem is that most of the property owners there are going to complain about the financial impact you impose on us, either through a tax supplement or the county comes up with the money just to put in a new road. The road is already there. The majority of the road, the private road that Donna owns, that's 1,000 feet long, that ends at the beginning of Terry Smith's property. Then you can make a right turn, pave it, and connect to the road that already goes into the bus terminal. That's a perfect spot. There's great line of sight at the top of the hill where you come off of the Highway 12. Well, it's better than what we have.
True.
For sure. And there are 2 lanes at the top because everybody's moving over going east. They're moving over to make that left turn going to what's the name of the, McCullough Hill. So, I mean, as far as financial impact, heck, that's a lot less of an impact than building a 4-lane going through there. But, I mean, that's something for further discussion. As far as the property, when it's split into 2 parcels, you're going to have additional family. Well, if we could actually turn that office into a residence, we have more calls have been made to Donna to want to live there.
The trucking company wanted to live there,
Yeah,
by the way.
and-
I said, no,
yeah.
it doesn't work.
And so I could go to the planning department, the building department, and see if I could get issued to have the ability to turn it into it's a 4 room suite as it is, to a 4-bedroom, put in a kitchen. It has 2 bathrooms, a handicap, and see how that goes for residents. But I just could not understand why that's never been taken out, but that's for further future discussion. So as far as another single family impact, we could never rent it as a residence. So that impact, really, I don't see that as being an issue because it's all M2 industrial, unless we have a caretaker there, which is allowed in this zoning.
I think that's the only context in which the additional residence is being talked about.
Okay. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I'd like to thank the department as yourself preparing this for the second time. Maybe it was a little easier. I don't know. It looks just as complicated. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for me?
No.
Anybody?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we take public comment now? Does anybody have any comments they would like to make on this agenda item? Good morning, Colleen.
Good morning. How are you? Colleen Platt with My Valley Springs and the Calaveras Planning Coalition. I wanted to echo what Commissioner Laddish said about Gina's work. It was a very excellent initial study in NEGDEC. Very impressive. This intersection has come up before in previous discussions. As Gina points out, these buildings and uses are already there. They're not adding uses. They're not creating development and new buildings. They're just dividing the parcel. So it's not, it really doesn't have any more potential than it already has right now. It already has the potential to increase traffic from a different business. So that's not because of this tentative parcel map. So we support the tentative parcel map split as reflected in the initial study, NEGDEC. And then the third thing is I would encourage the Planning Commission to try to move forward on dealing with this intersection in some way, perhaps have a study session or some type of thing to discuss the solutions that have been mentioned, maybe have Public Works and Caltrans and everybody come and have a brainstorming session so that you can show that you are concerned and that you are moving forward and you want to pursue a solution to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, if no further comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I'd like to start by saying I think it's very clear we have a very serious problem in this area. And I think planning is what's needed to do something with it. But I see it as a very separate thing as to what's before us today, of the actual division of this particular parcel into 2 parcels. And I think as far as the traffic problem goes, under the current zoning, if these 2 parcels, or this 1 parcel now, could generate just as much traffic as the 2 parcels that are being requested. So I don't think that really speaks to the problem of dealing with the traffic. So I would be fully in favor approving the tentative parcel map.
Commissioner Bocelli?
Well, we talked about my concern about that one sentence, but I'm not sure we reached any kind of a conclusion on how we might be able to reword it if that's possible. Or is that strictly language out of the code that we have to adopt? This is
Does it
on
have to stay
page-
safe?
That's verbatim.
Yeah. Page 1 of 7 on the resolution, item 1. Can it say something like the project will not increase the safety hazards for future land uses, or?
Certainly we can. I had just sort of scribbled down perhaps at the end of that evidence section, no future development will result from approval of this tentative parcel map and will not worsen access or safety.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Can you slowly?
I have it written down.
I was going to go back and make the change and then bring it back further. I'll just take your paper.
Okay,
How's
I'll
that?
give it to Annette.
So item number 1 that Commissioner Bocelli brought up, the project has safe, adequate access. I understand you're going to add that extra sentence at the end, but then the two contradict each other. So I think we need some more clarity there.
He's going to replace the sentence,
I thought he was
correct?
replacing.
No. See, so the statement number 1 is what is the required finding out of the code. And that is, if you do not feel that the project has safe, adequate access, you may say the area doesn't have safe, adequate access, but does the project have safe, adequate access? And my additional sentence is saying this project does not worsen the situation. And if you find that's just not sufficient, then I guess you can't make that finding and would have to then deny the project.
And that finding is a mandate. It has
Yes,
to
it
state
has
that.
The 1 through 6 here are the required findings from our code that we need to find in order to approve the project.
But is that, what the access they're talking about there, are they talking about access to the parcel from the road that it's on? Or a more generalized access to Calaveras County or to this Toyon area? I could read that.
I think it's broad in scope.
Okay.
I think that's an interpretive question that the planning commission has discretion to answer.
Right. I would agree with that.
What's the discretion?
To determine whether what the project having safe access means access from the drive leading to its driveway versus off of the highway. So where the access starts from, I think, is within the planning commission's interpretation.
So could we say the project has safe, adequate access to, what is the name of this?
Toyon Circle?
Toyon Lane, Toyon Circle. Add the words to Toyon Circle.
Good.
The finding says, the evidence is the subject parcel has access off of Toyon Circle, an improved private road that meets the minimum standards to serve commercial and industrial uses.
So that speaks to that it is access off of Toyon Circle, I would think that that's what what that access in number 1 means, is that, sometimes
All right, can we just add the words Toyon Circle to that main sentence, the conclusions? The project has safe, adequate access either to or off of Toyon Circle to accommodate future land uses.
But this covers it.
Can we put that up in number 1? And
Move it up in the
Statement.
finding?
Yes.
because that seems to be the interpretation we're giving it under the evidence, is that access off of Toyon Circle. So if that's the interpretation we're giving to the word access, we might as well make it clear under number 1, unless you can't tinker with that language at all.
think the decision would be more defensible if you leave the language, recommend a language change or clarification in the future, and clarify your interpretation in the evidence section. I think that would be the better option for you. I understand what you're doing. I'm not saying it wouldn't be defensible, but given that we have exact language in the code.
Well, then, what I
We're
would,
not changing the exact language, we just added 2 or 3 words. We're not eliminating any words in the code.
Are you talking about the actual finding in number 1?
Yeah, they
Yes.
want to amend the actual
The very
finding.
first sentence.
So actually, that is not verbatim of the code. Let me read what the code says. The board finds that public safety and welfare and for orderly development consistent with the county general plan, it is necessary to require that conditions of approval be placed upon tentative parcel maps. Such conditions of approval shall be those necessary to protect the interests of prospective property owners and their successors in interest, or those necessary to serve the broader interests of the general public and its health, safety, and welfare, or both such interests. Conditions of approval may include, but are not limited to, requirements for safe, adequate access to accommodate future land uses and users as set forth in this code.
May include.
So this is the findings necessary. This is sort of oddly worded, actually. It's under the section of findings under parcel maps, but it's actually talking about what the county can do to apply conditions.
It wasn't a mandatory wording, it said it may include. And so I don't see any problem with just adding the words 20 on circle to that.
Yeah, I just realized that. So yes, I think you could change that if you felt it was appropriate.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
If I heard you correctly, what the code is speaking to is the ability of the county to impose conditions.
Yes.
We're not imposing any conditions that have anything to do with improving access here, as I understand it. So I'm having a little trouble seeing why finding number 1 is required at all.
The reason why we included that, and it was a sort of a paraphrasing of this, is the title of this section of the code is findings. And so looking at the project as a whole, including the conditions, the action being taken, each of these provisions need to be met.
But it was
So-
written in the negative.
But it was sort of written in the negative. It's a,
We're looking, just so you know what section, it's 1605-020.
But if they're not met, then, Peter, then that's when it's appropriate to either condition or possibly even apply mitigation.
right,
to
right. So
the
if we
project.
can't make the finding that there's adequate and safe access, then we have the ability to impose conditions or deny the map. If we can find that it's adequate and safe, then we can go ahead and approve it.
I don't have it in front of me, but from what I heard, it said it may include those sorts of terms. I don't think it's a mandatory requirement that we find safe, adequate access, et cetera. I know I heard the word may.
Yes, you're right. That's correct.
May not have heard the rest of it.
That may impose conditions to ensure that there's
May
adequate, safe
impose conditions, but that doesn't mean that we don't make the finding, right?
Doesn't mean we have to either.
Well, it doesn't
Well,
mean we have to.
but what you're missing is they have to
That's
have
the
the
point.
safety component in there. They have to have that,
This is what they're
finding?
submit to us.
but
Oh, tell me about it.
you may add conditions or mitigation. Not you can add, not you may add safety, but you may add the condition. Is that correct, Gina, is what we're
I don't
hearing?
have it in front of me.
Well, I have absolutely no problem if we insert the phrase that Commissioner Bocelli suggested to number 1, because it has safe, adequate access off of Toyon Circle.
Well, I think that's clear when you look at the evidence.
It is clear looking at the evidence, but it also states, and SR12. The SR12 bugs me. I don't like and SR12.
SR12.
That bothers me. If you're going to state in the evidence, Toyon Circle,
Yeah. We could
that's
strike,
fine, but to
strike
add
that.
and SR12, I don't like that.
Good point. Yes.
Then it would be not increased
Then it
traffic
would be
on Toyon.
consistent with the upper statement. So if we just edit out,
At the intersection of.
You're suggesting edit out the second sentence of the evidence?
the proposed TPM will not increase traffic at the intersection of Toyon Circle and therefore will not increase safety hazards at the intersection. By removing and SR12, we're not making any affirmative statement to the highway access. And then the upper finding, then it references your evidence of only Toyon Circle, and you're not making a change to your finding.
What
I
about
think
the word
that's-
intersection?
So
Yeah, I think
you
you'd have
just
to
take out
strike-
the whole, the thing, the proposed TPM will not increase traffic. That whole thing should be removed.
Okay? But don't we need to
You could-
reference the TPM?
You could certainly say the proposed
Well, it says
TPM
the
will,
subject parcel, oh, the subject parcel.
the
has that.
proposed TPM will not increase traffic on Toyon Circle. and
Perfect.
therefore will not-
Stop right there.
Yeah, and stop right there.
Okay,
So are we now omitting the revision that Peter made regarding future
yeah, we didn't like
development?
Peters.
We made up our own.
Once we got it up,
Be gone.
once we got it up and
That's right. I think since we've narrowed the focus of this finding, that's no longer necessary, so we can strike
Okay.
that.
Okay,
So to be sure we have this correct, should I reread it?
you know, you're gonna need to reread it because we never did accept anything that Commissioner Laddish stated as well, so I want to make sure if they want to adopt his language in here so that we're consistent.
Okay, so the finding itself, I think now reads, the project has safe, adequate access off Toyon Circle to accommodate future land uses and users as set forth in county code.
I don't think we were gonna add the word Toyon. We did not change anything in the
No.
find.
I
we were.
Yeah.
thought we did.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You're going to add off
Yeah.
Toyon Circle.
Commissioner Bocelli added the word
I
off
thought-
Toyon.
Because we referenced it in the evidence is how one corrected
I
the
don't see a
other.
reason why you don't put it in the.
Okay.
You wanted that
in the
connection.
finding. Stick it in there.
Okay, I'm polling you all. Do you want it in there?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay, so 3 yeses.
It's in.
It's in.
Okay. Evidence. The subject parcel has access off Toyon Circle, an improved private road that meets the minimum standards to serve commercial and industrial uses. Oop,
Commercial.
Yeah.
let's omit the word commercial.
Commercial and.
Sorry. The proposed TPM will not increase traffic at Toyon Circle.
Or on Toyon.
On.
On Toyon Circle, period.
Yep.
Good?
Good. Okay, the other changes that you had suggested were not part of the resolution.
I think he was,
Yes. Yes, there are.
I
Yes,
had
sir.
that about the one additional single-family residence.
weren't those changes to the initial study itself?
No, that
No.
that-
No,
that
it looks
was-
like on 2 of 7, Gina, on
Did you
number
have more?
4.
Mr.
Number
Laddish
4.
had a change in paragraph 4, a couple of them.
Paragraph 4.
Would, leaving the word residence will, he wanted to change that would and not, and strike the word be.
Yeah, the whole change to that sentence would be to strike the therefore and just say, the potential inclusion of one additional single-family residence would not create a significant impact to the population growth of the area.
And you had a previous sentence that you were
and
inserting?
I was suggesting to put in before that sentence, insert a sentence by saying, by adding a parcel, comma, the proposed project would increase the potential residences on this land from 1 to 2.
Got it.
Is that necessary?
It clarifies it.
It makes
Yeah.
why we're only saying the addition of one resident.
And you're going to insert the word significant in the evidence statement on finding number 1 for the negative declaration?
Well, on finding number 1 of the negative declaration, I was suggesting that we make it clear that Caltrans, we're on the sentence, third sentence in evidence, Caltrans has concerns that there will be some increased use and that site distance to the west is below standard. But I think that the statements after that indicate the county says that it's going to be minor, which I think is insignificant.
Is everybody very clear on these resolution changes and you're comfortable with voting, or would you like it retyped and brought back?
I'm clear enough on them.
I'm clear enough too. Okay. All right. Are you clear?
As mud.
You're the one that's writing.
I think we're good.
I have it, yeah. We're good.
We're all good?
We're good.
Okay. Gina, do you want to start?
Add anything? No.
No, we don't. Thanks. You want to read the resolution for the negative declaration into the record?
Are we ready for the recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission pass a motion authorizing the chair to sign Resolution 2017-024, adopting the negative declaration for 2016-1130 tentative parcel map based upon the findings contained therein as amended.
Thank you. Can we get a motion?
I move that we adopt that resolution as amended.
In a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. So would you,
Second?
yep, please.
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission pass a motion authorizing the chair to sign Resolution 2017-025, approving tentative parcel map 2016-1130, based upon the findings contained therein and as amended.
Thank you. Motion?
I move that we adopt that resolution as amended.
In a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right.
It really is amazing that to insert one line in a parcel.
Sorry it took that long. We had to thoroughly get it out there.
I've been in real estate for years too.
Yes, we will send you a final copy of the resolution.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record, this application, or this action is final unless an appeal is filed with the county within 15 calendar days from today's date.
And one thing too is there's a fee that's due for the wildlife in 5 days.
Talk to Gina about that, yes.
Okay. We're going to start the next hearing, which is an appeal of planning director's denial of commercial cannabis. We'll start the hearing, but we are going to stop at about 3 or 4 minutes to 11 o'clock, so we've got a good 30 minutes here to work on it. We're ready. We're waiting on you.
Ready to roll? Let's see here. This is appeal number 2016-827. Joshua Moore is appealing a denial of a commercial cannabis registration by the planning director. Again, project description: an appeal of a denial of a commercial cannabis registration by the planning director. The registration was denied for the following reasons. First, the registrant did not produce evidence that no later than May 10th, 2016, cultivation and/or grading, earth moving commensurate with the area proposed to be developed occurred on the site. And also the application for registration contained false or misleading information. Just to situate ourselves as to where the site is located, basically the site is 640.35 acres. It is a whole section. And it is located 2 miles north of Highway 4 at the Stanislaus and Calaveras County line. That's your county line. If you're on Highway 4, you stand right there at that county line. If you go north 2 miles, you're going to be pretty much sitting right on top of our cultivation site. And that is in District Number 4. On June 30th, 2016, the applicant Joshua Moore filed a commercial cannabis cultivation registration for 22,000 square feet of outdoor cultivation area. Contained within that application was the plot plan you see up here on the screen. Again, this is the whole section here. The applicant is actually located Highway 4 out here. Actually, it would be to the south of the site down here. And there's basically a road that comes in, winds up around this portion of the section, and your cultivation area is approximately right there. I would like to proceed to the first cause of denial, and that was that the applicant failed to meet the requirements of Section 1795-165 N3 and B. And that reads as follows. Number 3, the registrant must provide evidence satisfactory to the planning director that no later than May 10th, 2016, he or she has taken demonstrable steps toward the development of a commercial cannabis, medical cannabis cultivation site on the parcel as described in either A or B below and by at least one of the criteria described in C through K. A reads, date stamp photographic evidence of grading and or earth moving commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated. And B reads, date stamp photographic evidence of cultivation commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated. Contained with the Mr. Moore's application for cultivation were four photographs dated April 11, 2015 as evidence of cultivation. These photographs illustrate holes being dug by an auger mounted on a bobcat. That's an illustration of the holes right there. Here we got the auger on the Bobcat digging those holes. Let's see if I can find top left. That? Can't do,
I can see.
Middle of, so the view review slideshow. Go to the right, view review slideshow. Go to the left, all in the middle on that.
Go down over here, slideshow.
There you go.
Hit that. Okay, go down, second one to the left, from current slide. There you go, right there. There you go. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Still learning here. Anyway, okay, so this is the second of the evidence photos showing the Bobcat and the large holes that were being dug out on the site. Aerial imagery from June 3rd, 2016 showed no evidence of prior cultivation activities, and this is a close-up. We'll get to the enlargements in a little bit here. However, aerial imagery from August 20th, 2016 showed development consistent with the evidence photograph. Because of these inconsistencies, I decided to contact Mr. Moore and discuss what was going on with these issues here. I called him on February 17th, and Mr. Moore explained that the holes were made along the draw or drainage leading from the stock pond to the corral area. And this is the stock pond up here in this corner. This is your drainage. This is the draw down to the corral area down here. He also explained that he had been growing cannabis for years under the trees in the draw, a dozen or so plants each year. I then asked Mr. Moore why he would have evidence dated April 11th, 2015 to meet requirements established at a later date in the beginning of 2016. Mr. Moore responded that he did not have any photos demonstrating cultivation when he became aware of the deadline and evidence requirements. Therefore, the date of April 11th, 2015 was added as a historical reconstruction of cultivation in prior years to his evidence photographs. Now, it may be that in prior years the registrant did conduct small-scale activities in the draw. However, examination of the June 3rd aerial it shows no evidence of cultivation or earth moving on the scale depicted in the evidence photographs at the draw location. And this is your June 3rd aerial. We did not see any evidence of those holes in existence at that time. Subsequently, Mr. Moore chose to develop a new cultivation area after May 10th above the draw, as depicted in the aerials of August 20th, 2016. And here you can see you're above the draw, across from the corral, and there is your cultivation area that was developed at that time. The April 11th, 2015 dated photos submitted by Mr. Moore are consistent with the cultivation activities depicted in this aerial of August 20th, 2016. Because of these inconsistencies, along with the verbal explanation that the appellant offered, we were not provided with sufficient evidence that cultivation or earth moving for a 22,000 square foot grow occurred on the parcel to be registered prior to May 2016. And that basically fails to satisfy the requirements in section 1795, 165, and 3A and B. The second cause for denial here was, let's see, I'm going to go for, the second cause for denial was the applicant failed to meet the requirements of section 1795, 170, 4, and that reads as follows. A is registration of a medical cannabis cultivation site pursuant to this chapter may be invalidated by the planning director for any of the following reasons. And number 4 reads, the application for registration contained false or misleading information. Now, the registrant submitted the 4 photographs dated April 11th, 2015, showing the holes being excavated by the cultivator. Aerial imagery from June 3rd, 2016, however, shows no evidence of any prior cultivation activities on the parcel.
I noticed it.
And that is in this one right here. I'll just take it back a slide, and that is your June 3rd photograph from 2016.
Now, the previous screen that you showed,
Yes.
I think you have July 3rd, 2015. Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
that
that is
photograph
actually a...
from 2015.
Yeah, that is, and
Okay.
I'm showing this because he indicated on the evidence that he submitted that this was done in April 11th of 2015. So I went looking for an actual image, close to that date, and the closest I could come up was just about 3 months later. And at that time, we still did not see any evidence of cultivation in 2015. Not in 2015, not up until June of 2006, some point after June of 2016. Let's see here. The appellant in his appeal letter of March 15, 2017 stated that we were also saying he had false pictures, which may or may not be true. He didn't understand what we were explaining, the point we were getting to here. And what I would like to explain is that this is false. It is false because the appellant, I'm having trouble reading. Because of this is false because of the statements by the appellant basically admitting to the fact that that date was created as a historical recreation, and also because the date of 11th of April 2015 on the photo does not represent actual conditions on the site as shown by the aerials of July 3rd, 2015 and of June 3rd, 2016. The evidence photos are also misleading because it shows earth moving and cultivation improvements required prior to May 10th, which actually did not occur until a date thereafter. And for those reasons, the evidence that the applicant submitted was deemed to be both false and misleading, and therefore the planning director chose to rescind the appellant's submittal based upon those findings. And that basically is my presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
No? Okay. Is the appellant here today?
Okay, so the pictures in April
I'm
are
sorry,
not-
can you just state your
sorry,
name for the record,
My name's
please?
Josh Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time. So the pictures are not false. We took the pictures in April 2015. We were going to do outdoor. We run cattle. My landlord's here with me on the ranch. We ended up not doing a crop, filled the holes back in. Following year, I come in, turn in my application to the county, like you said, on June 30th. I've done nothing. I don't want to spend any money because, for one, I don't have it. For two, I don't know if I'm going to get approved for my permit. And three, I can have my environmentals come up here. There's no dirt work necessary on the site. We're flat. I mean, absolutely nothing necessary. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. I have no other pictures. We didn't cultivate because, for one, I didn't have a permit, and for two, I didn't have the money. That's...
So basically, you're saying you did this.
We were going to grow in 2015.
You drilled those holes.
We backed out of
you
it.
Filled
We
them
went back
in. You decided not to.
We went back into the trees and did our, personal 20 or 30 plants. And at the time, that's all we did. I mean, we didn't want to push it. And I got a lawyer, filled out my application, came down here to do it the right way, paid you guys your money, paid the water board their money, paid the environmentalists their money, and I paid all that money after he says, you guys got that picture July 3rd. Well, I didn't even pay for my permit till the 3rd week of July, so I don't know how you guys can expect me to spend the money and go forth in doing all that when I don't even have a permit yet, you know?
And the picture is dated July 3rd. That doesn't mean that the department had looked at the picture
Okay.
as of that.
Okay, okay.
Did you turn in any other photos?
I turned in just the augering from 2015 because I had no other photos for, like I said, there was no dirt work necessary. And my environmentalist can testify to all that. Crystal Casey, she works for Eastside Environmentalist. She came up to our site, said I had one of the cleanest sites she's seen the entire year. I mean, we're on 600 acres. I got no neighbors. We're never going to get a complaint. I mean, he's got actually, what, 1,800? 1,600 acres. We're right in the middle of 5 continuous parcels.
When you submitted those photos, did you
Yes.
submit it with an explanation that
No,
those have been holes
no,
that you filled
because
back in?
I got it in on.
You gotta let me
yeah,
finish,
no.
make sure you know what I'm asking.
Okay.
Did you submit it with with an explanation saying, these were holes we did dig, but we filled them back in, we don't have any holes now?
They never asked for any of that. The guy asked me for, he said everything looks good, and I gave him $5,000 and walked out of here and thought I had a permit, you know? So we continued on after that point. I didn't actually come in and pay my money till I think the 2nd or 3rd week of July because it was so late. I was on a waiting list. They didn't get to my application, you know, early enough, so.
So, and those holes were not where you eventually did
That's
drill holes?
exactly where we did it. Those
No,
holes
I
are in
mean-
an identical spot of where
I thought they were down in the draw.
No, they're in the exact same spot. We filled them all in.
They're in
We
the
got
spot where
cattle
you
coming
eventually
from,
cultivated.
yeah, it's in the exact same spot we're cultivating now. We didn't use holes when we actually got the permit. I went in pots because my environmentalist said that you can't bring dirt in and put it to the native soil is what I was under the understanding, so that's why we went with the black pots.
So,
When you told the planning department that you had previously grown in the draw, I think was the word you
Yeah.
used?
Right in those trees.
So that was some time prior to April of 15?
Yeah, I mean, his family's been. It's been going on up there for 20, 30 years. And I rent the ground for cattle under Dave, so that's how I ended up connecting with him on it. And
Did you verbally tell the planning department that you had filled in those holes and explained this situation to them before today?
I mean, not really, no.
Why not?
I didn't know what to do.
Well, the report we have says that there was a meeting February, what was the date?
They asked me for pictures.
Sometime February 17th of this year. Did you tell them at that point?
I never met with anyone in February.
Well, it was a phone
A
conversation.
phone conversation.
Telephone.
No, I didn't. I talked with you, I believe.
Yeah.
I
No,
know.
you did not.
No.
And it was a discussion of the discrepancies in the photographs. And you
I
did,
just told them, yeah, we didn't use the holes, we filled them in.
you did say that you'd filled them in, you told them
I
that.
don't know if I did or
Part
not.
of the discussion.
You said the pictures were false because you can't see them on the screen. Well, obviously, once you fill them in and you have a whole winter go
But that
past.
was not part of our discussion. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
That was not part of our discussion.
You did
You
talk
never
about,
asked me if I filled them in, no. You never asked me that.
That's,
Why would I ask you that?
I don't know.
okay,
Was there any evidence of cultivation by you given to the county by May 10th?
I have receipts for plants, I have receipts for materials.
Did you turn anything into
I
the
turned
county?
all that in with my application. I mean, if it was, why did you guys accept my money, you know, when I had everything? You know, why did I have to pay all this money? Then not only that, but we've got over $100,000 invested into this operation now. And now I'm looking at a letter of denial, like, how do I
the
do?
natural implication from what you submitted to them,
Yeah.
to the planning department, is these were the holes we dug to plant the plants that we are going to be growing
Yeah.
this year. And if there were some other explanation or details about those holes, it would be up to you to let the planning department understand.
They asked for
So
pictures.
they were operating on the basis of what you gave them
Okay.
without any further explanation.
Okay.
You're stating that you did not pay your fee until July?
Yeah, because there was such a backup, they couldn't process everything, you know, in time because there were so many people in here. We didn't even get called in until like this first or second week of July. That's when I actually came in to pay for my permit.
So anyone who was in line on the last day, we said, we cannot process all these applications on this last day. So we're going to take your name and information, and then we will call you, and you can come in. And so those people that gave us their name and phone number, we called them back in. And so we completed the acceptance of the applications during
And
after, in July.
The photographs.
But they had to have provided, they had to have been here on, before June 30th for us to do that.
So the figure 1 plot plan picture, can you pull that up,
Yes.
please?
The plot plan? This?
There is a plot plan map. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. You submitted this map as where your grow was going to be, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you abandoned that idea and moved the grow, correct?
No, that's exactly where the grow is. Exactly where that plot map is. We never moved it.
You said it's in the draw now, though. It's not, is the draw on top of where you,
Okay, that's the creek coming down right there, right below the number 3, right?
Right there?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would have to agree that this is basically accurate. I think this draw extends back up beyond the cultivation site, and your stock pond would be back up in this area right here.
okay, so further pictures going ahead showing the grow where it is at currently today? Because these pictures are zoomed in, so I can't,
Right, okay, let me go to this picture right here, okay? So that is the cultivation area, this is your stock pond, the draw coming down, your drainage, and there's your corral right there. That is your cultivation area as it was developed.
okay. I guess you guys just confused me. I apologize.
So could I ask maybe a clarification question? What I heard you say was that you were previously growing along the draw.
We were growing in the draw.
In the draw.
In the draw.
And
In the draw,
prior
so-
to May 10th, 2016,
Yes.
you had grown in the draw.
Yes. In other
Had you
locations.
grown or prepared the cultivation area?
Nope. I
So
hadn't.
that is in complete violation of the intent of the law. The code said you could grow what you were doing previously.
Okay.
If you had grown, so if he had grown in the draw area, the dozen or so plants that you said, you could continue to do that under the ordinance. But to create a whole new cultivation area was just the complete opposite of what the board's intent was of freezing operations on May 10th. And that's the whole point why this was denied. This is a new cultivation site. This is not pre-existing. This was an expansion, a movement of the prior cultivation to something new. If he had waited until the county adopted a new ordinance that allowed new cultivation, he could possibly do this, depending on the provisions of code. Of course, now the intent is to ban it. But if he had grown the same amount that he had grown previously, in the area that he'd grown previously, this would have been consistent with the code. But he chose instead to expand the grow and move it to a whole new area, going from a couple dozen plants to 22,000 square feet. This was a new cultivation. The information that he provided to us did not show that he was previously growing in that area, and therefore that's the reason it was denied. We accept the fact that he might have been growing there previously, but not to the extent or in the area that was ultimately cultivated.
But a question there is, if the pictures showing the drilling, if those holes had still existed in May 8th, say, of 2016, that would be evidence of the preparation for cultivation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so can we see that slide you had from May of 2015?
Yes.
Oh, July, yeah.
July 3rd.
Can you,
Where the cultivation area would be right in here.
Right there.
There's a fence line right there, and the ultimate cultivation occurred right here.
I'm interested if can you enlarge that area, or is that beyond your?
I don't think we could do that on
Okay.
on this.
Do that
Okay.
on the slideshow. But again, it would have been right here. And actually, I'm not sure when Mr. Moore is proposing that the holes were actually excavated and filled back in.
Right.
But this is a very basically dry range cattle grassland. And I would frankly myself be quite surprised that we would not see evidence of those holes having been excavated and then refilled in. In either this photo, this aerial from July of 2015 or the June aerial of 2016. It's just a very dry environment. I think it's pretty fragile. In fact, I don't think we can see all two. Let me see if I can. Right here, you'll see, this is the June 3rd, 2016 county aerial. Just look at the roads right here. You can see the roads coming in. You do not see any traffic over in this area, and obviously the cultivation has not been developed yet. But if we go forward, you can see just the impact of the roads coming in as the cultivation area is developed upon that dry grassland. So I'm kind of standing with what I previously said. We would have seen some impact in terms of those holes having been excavated and filled back in. I think we would have seen traffic, we would see more roads up in this area, but we would see the actual abandoned filled-in holes.
Okay, I've got a couple questions, Mr. Moore.
Yeah,
For the grow that you ultimately established, did you have to do any grading?
nothing at all. None at all.
And before May 10th of 2016, were you doing any cultivating on the site that's shown there on August 20?
Not on the site. We were in the creek. But then when they came out with the environmental study saying that you have to be 250 feet away from a creek, that's when we moved 250 feet out of the creek bottom.
Okay, and then how many plants were you growing in the creek?
Maybe 50 at the most. In that spot, yeah, 50, 40 or 50.
But nowhere near to cover 22,000 square feet?
I only have 100 plants in that picture there for the whole year. That's all I did.
Okay, so
You can see my space. I built the fence around it. You can kind of see the outline of it. And I got them gapped way out. I mean, I put them 10 or 15 feet apart. I didn't have the money to fill the whole facility.
well, since you weren't actually cultivating on that site by May 10th, or June 3rd for that matter, you obviously can't have photographic evidence that you were, because you weren't.
Yeah,
And our problem is that one of the requirements of this ordinance is that we have to have that photographic evidence.
okay.
As the planning director said, under the urgency ordinance, you can only cultivate what you were already cultivating as of May 10th.
Okay.
And that's not what's happening here. That's the problem.
Okay.
And when were the pictures actually taken that bear the date of April 11th?
What do you mean?
The Bobcat
11th.
picture and then a
We were
hose.
going to do 99 plants outdoor in that exact spot April 11th, and we ended up not doing them.
So you're telling us those pictures were taken April 11th?
They were taken April 11th. My landlord was with me. I filled the holes back in the following year for the cattle. That way none of them got hurt. Weather took over. You can't tell any of it's there.
Okay, so by May 10th of 2016, those holes had all been completely filled in?
Yeah, nothing was there.
Nothing was there?
Nothing was there then.
Okay.
I had no fence. I had nothing at that point, I just was waiting to get a legitimate permit before I moved forward financially. Like I said, the funds were not available.
But that was 2015. Coming into 2016, you say you were growing in the creek,
We were going to grow in the creek, yes,
and then you submitted your plot plan saying
And
you
they
were going to
told
be
me.
growing there.
Yeah.
But as of May 10th, you were not growing there, you were growing in the creek area.
Yes, we actually, May 10th, we hadn't even started yet for the season. We don't usually plant until June anyways, middle of June, beginning of June some years, so.
So as of May 10th, you weren't growing anywhere?
You weren't growing anything?
No, I mean, it's May. It's
Gotcha.
too early.
The cattle was still there also.
You did not okay, you did not submit any photographic evidence in 2016, only the 2015 photos.
That's it.
And you were not growing in 2015 where you're showing it on the plot
No,
map?
we weren't. The only reason, like I said, the reason we moved from the creek is my environmentalist said we had to be 250 feet away from the waterway. So that's why we bumped up the hill.
And when did you
across the
do that?
fence. When did we do what?
When did you move it?
When did we move it? When I got my permit.
But that sounds as if that was a new idea of
June,
moving it
July.
from the creek,
It
whereas,
was. It
but
was
a year ago,
because they told me I couldn't be down in there.
but a year before that, you had drilled all the holes up where you.
We were gonna do outdoor and we never did it. And we
Yeah.
stayed in the creek bottom.
I'd like to interject something here. That environmentalist would have not made that recommendation in 2015.
I didn't talk to her in 2015.
Okay, hold on a
about it.
second. You guys need to address us,
Sorry.
not each other,
Okay.
please.
Excuse me, he would not have known of that requirement in 2015.
Right.
And therefore would not have established a cultivation area at that location.
So
Was
maybe
the
you can just
condition.
tell us, why did you drill the holes where you drilled them?
Because I was gonna put 99 plants outside and try to make some money, you know? I mean, like everybody else is doing. And then we ended up backing out of the deal. And then they enroll it for the next year where I can get a permit and do it legal. Well, here we go. Let's go for it. That's
Okay.
basically what I did.
Okay. we're gonna call quits for now. We're gonna reconvene at 12:30. And you're good with that?
Yeah,
Okay. So we're gonna reconvene at 12:30 today.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.